Welcome to the Business Credit and Financing Show. Each week, we talk about the growth strategies that matter most to entrepreneurs. Listen in as we discuss the secrets to getting credit and money to start and grow your business. And enjoy as we talk with seasoned business owners, coaches, and industry leaders on a variety of topics from advertising and marketing to the nuts and bolts of running a highly successful business. And now, to introduce the host of our show, financial expert and award-winning author, Ty Crandall.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show today. I'm excited you could join us. So today with us is an entrepreneur, an angel investor, and founder of Build, Live, Give. Paul helps corporate escapees to build their dream businesses, and Paul learned the importance of thinking globally and acting local during his 18-year-old career at Coca-Cola. But at the height of it, he needed to take control. So Paul inherited his condition in corporate didn't mix, and for 5 years he worked alone, under-delivered financially. This took a huge emotional toll, and he was desperate and joined a mastermind, and it worked for him. So Paul's self-journey inspired him to create the BLG community, helping corporate escapees to wipe off years of struggle and rapidly growing their dream businesses. And he's really carved out a really cool niche of helping people go from the corporate world to actually succeeding in running their own businesses. So Paul, I think I stumbled a little upon your introduction, but welcome to the show today.
No, great. You did a great job, Ty, and awesome to be here.
Cool. Well, Paul Higgins is with us, and we're going to be diving and talking a little bit more. So, Paul, give us an idea. You worked with Coca-Cola for about 18 years, and then what made you get prompted to make the move, and what are the things that brought you to this point with us today?
Yeah, well, if I just sort of give you the quick backstory on Coke to begin with, my father worked there, and I was told I'd never get a job there, but I worked all through uni there, all part-time jobs, and I was basically about to go overseas, travel, and they said, look, we're desperate for reps. We're going to change our policy. Here's a set of keys, and why don't you come and work for Coke? I know it's not where you want to end up, but why don't you give it a go? I thought, okay, brilliant. And it was a wonderful ride. I think the pressure of having your father in the business meant that I worked harder than most people. I was really successful. I was the youngest sales manager that they ever had. I looked after the second biggest retailer in Australia, which is one of the most profitable retailers in the world, at a very young age, and just sort of climbed corporate. But most of our customers were small businesses. So what I spent a lot of my time on was actually helping people get better at making more profit and more cash in their business. You know, Coke effectively was like a consultant because we were, a majority of their business, and we had a material impact, and it was just awesome. So different customers all over the world, and had a great ride. But as you mentioned, I got a inherited condition called PKD, polycystic kidney disease. And look, it's not life-threatening, but didn't make, being on a plane, flying around the world, and the stress of corporate was basically going to bring on kidney failures. So I had two choices: either have kidney failure or try to extend it a few more years by jumping out and doing something myself. And that's what I did in 2011.
That's great. That's fantastic. So you've been, so what did you start doing when you went from corporate to your own? What business did you jump into?
Yeah, look, I started coaching to begin with, and I was coaching both people in corporate and also small businesses. Sort of had a foot in either camp. And I really loved coaching, but I realized that, to be a purist as a coach, it's all about just sitting and letting someone else come to the realization. The analogy they used to use is you've got the glass and you just show it in different ways, but they actually fill it. And that's fine. But I thought, God, I've got all this experience. Coke was a brilliantly run company. I'd seen all these other small businesses, and I just wanted to help more. So I then went into advising and mentoring, which I thought was a better space than coaching. Didn't lose my coaching, but basically went in to that. And I kept seeing two common themes. One was people didn't have enough time. So at Coke, you always had heaps of resources and people working for you, and people were really struggling with time. And the second was the technology. Like, people just were confused. There was actually too much technology out there. So that then led me to create two businesses. One was an outsourcing business, and the second was a technology business where we set up technology. So in short, I do the strategy. We then work out the best way to normally get profitability was better use the founder's time. So we got them virtual assistants, etc. So people to help, and then we set up the technology to help them do that.
That's fantastic. And I actually want to jump into both of those. I want to jump into the outsourcing, the virtual assistants. I want to jump into technology as well. So along the way, and we were talking about this before we got started, you've been able to kind of develop a formula. I think it's like a 5-step formula to be able to help these entrepreneurs and business owners kind of give them the guidance they need to succeed. Is that right? So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and look, Ty, the way that I came with it is just back engineering my journey. So as you said, I sort of left in 2011. It wasn't really to 2016 that I'd hit my straps. I was doing okay, but I was working probably harder than I was in corporate, working long hours. I was actually, the stress, had a different kind of stress. So that was causing my kidneys to be impacted, and it wasn't great. So I joined a mastermind, did really well, and like I said, I back engineered it. So the first one is personal productivity, is that time, especially for most small size businesses. The owner's time is the most critical thing. So we basically, I'll go through later what you can do there, but that's the first one. The second one is ideal client. Like I see so many people just not really being able to identify their ideal client. Can you get 1,000 people into a room and say specifically, who do you want? Most people describe it and it's like, yeah, well, you've just described 500 million people. Get specific. So we really help people with that. The third was business model. So a lot of people, especially, with cash flow, that they were doing a lot of the work and getting paid late or not getting paid at all. So have subscription-based pricing, making sure that you've got the right pricing model that's related to outcome, not to cost plus. There's some really key things around business model, which I learned at Coca-Cola and applied. The fourth is around sales focus. So certainly to the first million, it's all about the owner selling. And I think people say that their revenue isn't right, but they don't spend enough time selling. They don't have a process. Like Coke had the world's best training for salespeople, and it was a science. It wasn't left up to chance. So really getting specific on that is important. And the last one is high-performing team. So all of a sudden you've got this amount of work and you've got to deliver it, and then you really struggle to deliver. And if you don't get great case studies and testimonials, then it makes it really hard to get the next client. So building a team with you, and that's where the outsourcing really comes in, and then we use some other really creative ways to get it. But that's effectively our 5-step framework to help you rapidly grow, and it's getting an amazing success for our clients.
That's powerful. Now, what did you say the first one was before ideal customer?
Yeah, personal productivity.
Okay, cool. So what are some of the things that you're doing then along that line of personal productivity that you found that help business owners or entrepreneurs to work at a higher level? Because that's, I think, as you said, is the problem. Time is the biggest problem that we face in running businesses. And if we can perform at a higher level, then we could typically get more done with less time. So what are some things that you work on with your clients to be able to succeed in that area?
Yeah, so when I left Coca-Cola, I worked for a company called Franklin Covey. I don't know if you've ever heard of 7 Habits of Highly Effective. Yeah. So that had always influenced me at Coke, and I went and was a trainer, and they had a course called 5 Choices, and it was basically combining Covey's principles with modern neuroscience. So the key thing that I learned there was around personal productivity is really mindset. So the first thing is actually, meditating, making sure that you've got that quietness of mind, because if you're busy and you're constantly telling yourself you're busy and you're out of time, you will be. So the first thing is the mindset. And then the next, and really understanding the human brain and how your brain works, because everyone's got a different wiring, everyone's got a different environment. And I ask most people, look, you use your brain every second of the day, but how much do you know about it? They're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, how much do you actually know what your preferences are, why you behave in certain ways? And if you get a really good understanding of that, that can be hugely successful. The next one is a virtual assistant. So I mentioned it before with outsourcing, but I think every business owner should have an assistant of some form. And I think virtual is the way to go. We've got a great relationship with providers all over the world. And I just see that have a huge impact on people's personal productivity. There's basically things that only you can do. And then there's a whole lot of other things that, yes, you could do it, but you shouldn't do it. And that should be a virtual assistant. And then the last one is around the technology stack. So we've investigated the world's best technology for small businesses and how you can use that to effectively get a lot of time. And, automation is a thing that's commonly misunderstood, but there's some brilliant ways today when you do a certain action and it triggers something else, and you don't have to think about that. It just happens within the technology, and it's not trying to get something to Mars. It's very simple to implement. And we've got a brilliant tech stack that we provide our community, and that makes a big difference. So they're probably the three key things that I would talk about: mindset, the VA, and technology when it comes to personal productivity.
So when it comes to the VA part of it, what are virtual assistants? What is outsourcing? How does this work? I mean, we do a lot of it here, but a lot of people are still foreign to this concept. So give us some feedback. Give us some kind of background of that.
Yeah, so when I was at Coke and I was a director, I actually had written in my contract that every job I got an executive assistant. So that's how important I thought it was, because they were actually cutting it back and saying, well, look, you can do all this stuff yourself now. You can, self-help's the big thing. We don't need all these executive assistants. But I thought it was absolutely crucial. And really, I think that is then flowed into small business. And there's four key things that I always talk about, the core four. So one is email. Like, you should not be doing any email at all. So I go in and check my email for about 10 minutes a day, but the rest I've got someone I've got my virtual assistant going through my email every 15 minutes, responding as me. We've got set templates, etc. And that just saves me a huge amount of time, because I can't help myself. And when I did the Franklin Covey training, most humans can't help. It's an addiction that once you get in your inbox, you want to read more. You want that good news to come in, which is great. But all of a sudden you get distracted and an hour goes by and you think, why did I actually even come in here in the first place? So keep out of your inbox, email, get an assistant to do it. The next is calendar. So you shouldn't be setting up meetings. So there's some brilliant tools. We use Book Like a Boss, but there's a lot of automated tools. And then your VA can actually manage all your calendar in between. So your travel time, whatever. So effectively all you need to know is that you look in your diary, you're pre-briefed by them in the VA what you've got to do in that particular meeting, and that saves you a huge amount of time. The third one is tasks. So I love just voice the tasks. I love to talk. So instead of writing, typing, I just use normally Facebook Messenger, or there's Voxer. There's a couple of other things where you just talk and just release your finger. That goes straight to my assistant in the Philippines, and then they do the action. And that could be anything. I might be walking the dog and I think, oh God, I forgot to do this. I forgot to do that. I could add this value to a client. It's all about generating a great experience for your clients. It's just easy to do it because you just talk it and then your team does it. And the fourth one is around that sales follow-up. So yes, you've got to do the sales process, but there's a whole lot of admin that's in sales that you can give to your VA that can save you a huge amount of time. And sales follow-up's probably the number one cause of lost revenue. So the revenue's there, the person's ready to buy, and you just haven't got around to following up because you're very busy. But if you have a great VA, they can do that on your behalf.
That's interesting. The core four, I love it. So no email, having them handle your calendar, doing the voice to tasks, doing the sales follow-up. How easily do you find it is to work with people from the Philippines?
Well, Philippines are fantastic. I've been going there since 2012. I've been there about 20 times, and I've really got to know the culture and the people. And they're fantastic. Like most of them, I think it's the second highest English-speaking country in the world. They're all educated, tertiary educated. They invested a lot, the government, which is brilliant. And they've got a real customer service ethic, and they're just a delight to work with. So, look, the culture's brilliant. The biggest thing, though, is that they can be very, what's the word I'm looking for? They can just follow a process. So you've got to really pick the right people that will challenge a process. So, that's where we specialize with some of the partners we use that we've worked that out over the years. But as a general rule, they're awesome people, great to work with, and I highly recommend it. And especially in the US, where it's nice that you can actually have people working opposite to you. So when you're at sleep, they're doing work so that you're effectively nearly getting a 12-hour head start on other people. So I think it's a huge benefit to have someone based in the Philippines for a lot of your US
and I'm the same way. My virtual assistant, Sarah's worked for me for 9 years. She works at night. And then my other virtual assistant, Joni, works during the day. So 24/7, like I have coverage. Like I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, I have an idea. Then I could literally get it to Sarah and it's executed before I wake up, which is so cool. But a lot of people think this is expensive. So how affordable is it to hire people for the Philippines?
Yeah, look, it's affordable, but it's like anything. It's, time, cost, quality. So you just got to get a balance. So you could go direct, and I wouldn't recommend that if you haven't had experience in the past. But if you've got really good experience, you can go direct, and you can pay anywhere between sort of $5 to $10 US an hour for direct. The next model is that you might go through an agency. And that is where you're paying a slight premium, but they're training the people, they're vetting the people. And, that then, and if it's your first time, I'd certainly recommend that. And that, can be anywhere from, sort of $10 to $15 an hour US. And then finally is, taking people direct on yourself. So it's more like an employee where they become part of your own business. And, that once again, full-time rates, it really depends. But I sort of think of it as about a third of what you'll typically pay onshore. If you're in the US, it's about a third of that cost. And If you pick the right partner and do the right training and use the right technology, it's great. And what I love is people say, well, hang on, you're taking advantage of them. But unfortunately, these people were just born in a country where their parents are, and, the cost of living is a lot lower, but they're actually really smart people. They just want to be with their family like we are. So what I love now with technology like Zoom we're on now, et cetera, is they can, work from anywhere, work from home, avoid the traffic because especially in Manila, the traffic is horrendous. They can avoid that and they can learn and work with entrepreneurs all around the world. So it works for everybody.
Yeah. And I've the same thing. We have 15 full-time, Filipino virtual assistants. And what we found is that, people that to work for an American employer out of your home there is like the dream job. And, a lot of people don't understand that. I mean, there are countries with 90% unemployment rates. So these people, they're so honored to have a job and they treat you like that. It's really pretty interesting. Where do you go? If somebody's going to hire direct, do you have a source that you like to recommend that they go to hire direct?
Yeah, look, so there's JobStreet if you want to go direct to the market. Referrals is always great. So we've got over 130 vetted suppliers in our community called BLG Boost, and we've got multiple ways of going direct. So we've got, so JobStreet's one, but we've got some other providers. There is LinkedIn and Facebook ads. We've had really good success with actually doing Facebook ads direct to get people. So there's lots of great ways of doing it, and that's typically what we do is help people in BLG Boost to sort of get that right.
Now, you talked about the ideal customers. We talked about your 5 aspects of your formula. And what do you mean by that? Because a lot of people still don't understand what a customer avatar is. They don't understand the difference between the customer they get naturally and the one that they really want to have. So give some insight about what you've learned along the way about finding out who your ideal customer is.
Yeah, sure. So most people, like I said, describe it too much at a high level. They don't get into talking as if, so when you're talking to someone and describing their pain points or what's their challenges, it's like, oh God, this person's reading my mind. So you're getting really in depth. So what are their fears? What are their frustrations? What are their desires? What are their wants? Getting really specific about that. And not just saying, a 45-year-old male, and sort of just keeping it at a very high level. It's like be very specific on who you're after. And the way that we bring this to life is, yes, we do a profile. So you always have a picture, you go through the detail, but we also have a point system. So you actually, when you're going to get a client on board, you just have a point system and you rate them out of 100. And if they're a 75 plus, yes, you should work with them. If they're not, you don't. And where I got this concept was Coke vending machines. I'm sure everyone's familiar with a vending machine. They're all over the world. And, where's the best place to put a vending machine? And certainly when we first launched them, it was difficult. And what we did was just have a point system to say, if based on history, if it's all of these variables, this is where we get the greatest chance. So you just rate a placement out of 100. And sure enough, the sales started to improve because we had the right placements. You can do the exact same thing with your ideal client.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think as a lot of people that are starting in a business, which is a lot of people that you're working with or people that making that jump, that's kind of the problem they have is they'll take anybody in. And I'm sure you do probably a lot with teaching them how to fire people and how to say no to people, because you bring in the wrong person, that could be more work, time, and energy that it could cost you money than make you money, I think.
Oh, look, spot on. And what we always recommend is, look, people say it's not worthy for me to charge the market rate. So my view is, look, what you do is say, here's the market rate. So you want the right clients with I call it a hair on fire moment. So, you're not trying to convince them. They've got a real need that you can solve. And then what you do is you basically help, you don't need to convince them. They've already know what it is. And then you just sort of work it through. It's so important to define it, have the point system. And where I was going before is that you put your price at the market, but then you say, look, I'm going to discount it because yes, I am, building my credibility. So what I'll do is I'll give you a discount off market rate, but that's as long as you're happy, you give me a testimonial, and a video testimonial is the best. And then you can use that testimonial to get more clients. So that gets you your ideal client quicker. And so often I'll go to a website and I'm just like, I'm confused who you serve and what you do. So it's the first thing when I go to a website. Is it crystal clear who you serve and what you do? Because people have only got 2 minutes normally when they come to your website. And if you're not specific, and in the world today, you can serve anybody, the 7 billion people from anywhere. So now you really need to be hyper niche. And that's why I'm hyper niche for corporate escapees. I practice what I preached. When I first went out, I was basically trying to be all things to all people, and it just got me nowhere.
And as you're helping them develop, when they kind of make that jump and they understand who their customer is and they put together a clear message, and that helps them define their marketing, right? Because what you're describing is when you know their wants and their fears and their deepest desires, well, then you could write languaging on your website, your emails, et cetera, to speak to those people, which is kind of what you're describing. How do you take that to then develop it into a model of how you're going to actually run this business?
Yeah, look, great point. So around the sales, I think there's sort of 3 key things. So one is free. So what are you going to do free to attract new clients? What are you going to do paid? And what are you going to do from a joint venture perspective? I think they're sort of your 3 key things. So your first thing is like podcasting, which is brilliant. So I recommend, podcasting, writing a blog, having a brilliant bit of valuable information on your website so people can download it. That's sort of the first one around free content. Then the paid is obviously whether you're doing Google AdWords or whether you're doing Facebook ads. And like you said, video to Facebook ad is really important these days. But the most important thing is that you're adding value based off what the pain point is. You're helping solve that. So you're giving before you get. And I think that's really important. And then the third thing is a joint venture. So, there's people that are already marketing to the people that you've defined. So they're already spending money and they actually need some help to make sure. So for me, for example, we've got a brilliant community. I've got people that are desperate for like VAs that we spoke of before. So it makes sense for a VA company to work with me so that when I see the need, I'm already doing the marketing, the attraction. And then what I'm saying is, well, look, just go and work with this company. So all of a sudden they're getting lovely referral work and I'm basically their joint venture partner. And it works really well. So I think they're the 3 key areas that people can use to actually help get more velocity, i.e. more volume of clients in the door.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, because as you get started, even the free approach really can get you a lot of customers, just teaching and educating and giving away free information and helping people do what you charge them to do. And then it's amazing the loyalty that they have to you because they've done it. And I found that, some of them will pay you and become your clients. The others become your best testimonials because they take your advice and they do some of the things on your own. It's weird though how many people don't understand that concept of helping people get to the end goal and the benefit that provides, even without having to do paid advertising. It's so effective.
Yeah, and that's why you got to have time. So that's why personal productivity is the first. But the second, if you identify your ideal client, it makes it so much easier for someone to refer you. Because people want to help you. So if you left corporate, people think, you're really brave. You're actually making it on your own. That's awesome. But I don't know how to help you because you're not clear on exactly who you serve and what you do. So once you get that right, referrals is often the best way. So go out to people. Most people have got really big LinkedIn networks. Go out to people and just, instead of selling to them, just say, hey, look, this is someone that I'm really looking for that have got, this hair on fire situation at the moment. This is a solution I got from, do you know anyone? And people say, hey, yeah, look, I know Bob or I know Jenny. I'll just introduce you. And that introduction, that trust factor is the best thing to get your momentum going. And, don't spend a whole lot of time on websites and other things, which are, yes, marketing really works at some point, but to begin with, referral is the best way to really start the business.
Yeah, and it's so much easier for us with social platforms, to be able to connect with all these people at a level that, back in the day when you started at Coke, it's like you can't even do that. But like you said, now you could really build a business just based on the free aspect of what you're saying. And then as you get to a point where it really needs to grow, then you bring in the paid, you bring in the JVs, you kind of get yourself settled much easier than you ever could before because of all these social channels available to us.
Yeah, spot on. And what I do is I listen to about 3 hours of podcast a day. I listen at 2.5 times speed. I get all the best people in the world basically doing work for people like my audience, corporate escapees. And then what I do is basically go and vet them, go and use my corporate experience to make sure that they can do what they do. And we've got on our website at the moment, we've got a fantastic lead magnet of the 4 best questions you can ask the supplier, and you can go and get that for free, and that can help it. You can do it yourself, or you can come into a community. We've created a community where we've done all that work, because I think that's one of the biggest things is, you as you start to scale, it's like, who can I get to help me? Because I can't do it all myself. And I think it's really important to pick the right suppliers. And I don't know about you, Ty, but I got burnt. There was a guy, I spent $14,000 US on an online course, and it never actually made the light of day. And it really, really hurt, set me back a long way. So now I just help people avoid those mistakes. And getting really good quality referrals from people that you trust, I think is a great way of rapidly growing.
Yeah, and Warren Buffett says something to that effect, where it's really good to learn from your mistakes. It's even better to learn from other people's mistakes. So like being part of your network, like you said, you're taking that cumulative knowledge where people don't have to learn those lessons on their own, which you and I both know from personal experience and from our clients can be ridiculously costly and could provide years of setbacks to people trying to learn those lessons the hard way.
Yeah, well, yesterday, quick example, school holidays here, I took my family go-karting. And I'm a bit of a petrol head. So I thought, I'd get a brilliant time. And I was about 2 seconds off the fastest time they've had. And then I said to the guy, so take me through this map, how you do it. Because he was one of the fastest. And he said, I do this, I do that, I do that. I'm like, oh my God, like if I had just asked him before I did that lap, it would have been so much easier than trying to figure it out myself. Now, that's just a simple example, but so often I see people that leave corporate. Running your own business is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. And they say, like I did, I was successful in corporate, so I'll be successful in this. I'll just give it a crack by myself. Look, that's one way of doing it. But what I learned as per the Kart Exercise, if you actually go to people that have already done it and yes, they've made mistakes, and you can learn from that and expedite and condense the time, it's so much more enjoyable.
And, one of the other things you talked about as part of your 5 was the sales team aspect. When you see people make the move, what do you deal with people that just aren't naturally good at sales? I mean, can they develop to a point where they can be good at sales from your experience?
Yeah, look, I think it's about what does sales actually mean. And I heard that sales comes from a Norwegian word, which effectively means finding out exactly where someone is, finding out where they want to be, and then connecting them to that. So making it as easy as possible. And that's what I say to people. Like some people say, I can't sell. I'm like, when you see someone that's not doing well, do you feel for them? Yeah, look, I really feel for them. Okay. Can you understand where they want to be? Yes. Yeah, I get that. And I really want to take them there. I said, well, that's all you're doing. You're not selling. You're just taking them on this journey. So I think once they change that mindset of it's not a sale, I'm actually helping these people, and these people are better off because I'm actually in their life. then I find that really changes. And then once they get some success, early success by doing that, then that becomes the snowball.
Yeah, the best way to get what you want is to help other people get what they want.
Spot on. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. I mean, if you help them relieve their pain, then, that's where you kind of get the financial reward. That's interesting. I've never really heard sales thought of that way. But when you do, then it becomes less of selling, more about helping somebody solve a problem.
Yeah, and a lot of our corporate escapees, in corporate, it's still, unfortunately, a little bit about the company. So it's around shareholder, which I understand, but it's about hitting a number, hitting a quarterly profit number, and it's very short-term focus a lot of the time because of the incentives and the way it works. And that's cool. But in small business, it's not that way. And I think it's really important to work out what the client really wants. And unfortunately, a lot of corporate people are still in the view of, well, I know what the client wants, but really I'll just convince them that they want what we're selling. And that's what a lot of corporates do. In small business, it's not that way at all. So that's why you find out your ideal client, you find out what their hair on fire experience is, then you just provide that. And so often I see people say, I've got this great concept, I'll go and develop, then I'll sell it. No, it's the other way around. You actually find the person, find exactly what they're struggling with, and just solve that. And once you do that, that's the easiest path to success. And it's very different to what a lot of corporations do.
It's very different. And it gives small business owners a huge advantage because they can pivot and do those things where big corporations can't do those things. And we've seen Toys R Us and some of these big companies really struggle and not make it as a result of their lack of ability to pivot, where the small business owner could do that easily.
Yeah, and I think I went to a brilliant economist, Darren Sherlaw, last week, made a presentation. He talks about the huge growth between now and 2031. Like, if you think there's a lot of technology that we've done in the last 10 years, to 2031 is going to see some of the most advancements in technology that the world's ever seen. But he's saying that technology and the way it's going to go is it'll actually go towards entrepreneurs and small businesses. That's where people are going to go because they're a lot more adaptive, they're a lot more flexible, and some of the large institutions will actually fold or diminish in size. And, I'm sure you've seen that. You look at the stock exchange now, and the stocks that are there versus what was there 50 years ago, the companies are completely different other than Coke. Coke was sort of one that's hung around as 126 years old, but, a lot of them have declined. And I think that's why it's so exciting to go and run your own business and to leave the corporate cubicle and escape, because I think that's where a lot of the upside and adventure is going to be, exactly like you've done, running a fantastic business, helping people with credit. It's the flexibility and helping those small businesses where I think the joy and the money's going to be.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. You and somebody today on my Facebook newsfeed held up a Blockbuster card, and they said, something about how smart it was for them to switch to Netflix. But you're right. I mean, the companies that are succeeding this are just making these huge pivots and these ability to be versatile and flexible and change as technology changes. You talked about technology platforms. What are some of the platforms, maybe not even specifically, but even the kind of technology that you're finding you and your clients have really benefited from or are benefiting from now?
Yeah, look, great question, Ty. So one would be, this Zoom as a video platform. I think that's brilliant. I find Skype a little hacky. So a lot of people, used to have Skype. It's been very buggy, but I think Zoom is brilliant. Where possible, just do video conference. So often someone will say, look, there's a $10,000 opportunity here. I'll wait until I fly down and see you in 3 months' time to get it. I'm like, no, why don't we just get in a video call now? Isn't it better to have the 10K right now than wait 3 months until you happen to be flying down into the area? So I think video is definitely one, and Zoom's great. I think the next one is around project management and tasks. So if you've got all this dispersed people, like you've got 16 people in the Philippines, you need to have an awesome way of making it easy for them to work in a collaborative sense. And we use Asana. We absolutely love Asana. It's free to get into. There is a paid model, but you can use the free. And I think having something like that is great. There's also Trello, Basecamp. There's a lot of them, but don't rely on email. As I said before, you shouldn't use email. Yes, use it outbound sparingly, but where possible, use a project manager. And Look, I think the third one is around that automation. So we use Zapier, Zapier, and that allows you think of machines talking to machines, which is going to be the next big rage. You can do that as a small business. So if someone goes onto your website and clicks something, it automatically tasks someone in the team to do something. Or if you do an action, it automatically tasks. So all of a sudden, you don't have to remember to do as much. And in a world where we're constantly bombarded with more and more noise, wouldn't it be refreshing that you don't have to always think about the next step? And I think, using Zapier helps with that. So they're probably the big three. But like I said, if people hit me up on LinkedIn, I'm more than happy to share our tech stack. And we've got many others that help people expedite growth through great technology.
As you talk about expediting growth as a company begins to grow, building a team is essential. So what are some of the things that you found to be the most effective about building high-performance teams?
Yeah, look, great question again. So I think Coke had about 900,000 direct employees. And then if you look at the broader system, there was millions and millions of people. And they did a couple of things really well. One is having individual development plans. So have a development plan where you're working with someone to improve one core competency that they're in. So it might be communication, it might be leadership, it might be something that they're looking at, and spend a half an hour once a month with them helping that. And there's a 70-20-10 rule. So 70% on job, 20% within the company where they could buddy up with a partner, or, you might have something else in-house, and then 10% external. But really develop your people, because if you're developing your people, that's what people want more than anything these days. It's not necessarily the financial benefits, it's that. So definitely individual development plans, one. Performance reviews and plans. So be really clear on what success is and reward people around that. So, we've got some great methodologies we've adapted for Coke, for small businesses around that. But that's the second. And probably the third is around engagement. So, there's some great services like Peakon and others out there where in old corporate world, you used to every 2 years get a poll, and someone, wouldn't really want to fill in what they thought because they may get found out, but you'd sort of get this poll every 2 years on engagement and, what you like about the company, would you refer it, etc. These days, you can do that every month. You can get really brilliant analytics that tracks it, and it's amazing what you can find out, especially with people that you don't see face-to-face all the time because they're around the world. There's some awesome systems out there to help with that, and then you can quickly implement. So they're probably the three big ones that come to mind.
Paul, it's been awesome having you on the show today. Everybody listening today, where can they go to get more insight from you? And this has been so much information we've talked about. We've just talked about these basically overview, these 5 core principles that you have. So where can people, learn more about you, learn more about what you have to offer, talk about and think about maybe growing and being part of your network?
Yeah, sure. So the first place is the website, which is buildlivegive.com. You can also, within there, we've got some brilliant podcasts like this where people can hear stories. And like you said, people can learn from people that have gone before. And the other one is my LinkedIn profile. I think, we've constantly posting really valuable content. So if you connect with me on LinkedIn, you'll get access to some brilliant content because I know email, like I said, can be overwhelming. So we try to go through our social platforms. So LinkedIn is probably the one that I'm using most at the moment because most of my corporate escapees were on LinkedIn in corporate. So they've sort of kept that in their small business.
It's awesome. Paul, thanks for joining us today.
Brilliant. My pleasure, Ty. And I wish all of your listeners all the best for the rest of the year.
So everybody, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you check out buildlivegive.com. That's buildlivegive.com. I'm going to make sure that link is in the show resources page. I'm also going to make sure that Paul's LinkedIn profile link is in the show resources page too, so you can connect with Paul. Do not send him an email because he will not be the one replying to it. We know that. So check out buildlivegive.com. Everybody, I've been on the site. There was just a ton of really cool information. Like I said, he just scratched the surface of a lot of the other things, the topics that he is very familiar with and that he could definitely educate, teach you on, and things you could apply to your business to save yourself a bunch of headaches. So again, Paul, thanks for joining us. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure you check out buildlivegive.com. and connect with Paul to get even more information on some strategies that you can use to escape the corporate world, to get in starting your own business, and even to grow and scale your business to be a really, really successful company. So thanks again to everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and to make sure you visit buildlivegive.com. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to the Business Credit and Financing Show with your host, Ty Crandall. Watch for our next episode to get even more insight on financing and growing your business. And don't forget to check us out online at creditsuite.com for even more business growth strategies.